Welcome back to another severe weather forecast here by Age Weather Forecast. This is going to be a yet another enhanced risk threat as we continue to see very good amounts of energy in the atmosphere. First, some strong supercells, QLCSs, and a lot more. And this is going to be including parts of the Central Plains and even a slight risk for portions of the Mississippi Valley Basin here. We still also have to talk about tropical depression Cristobal as it's continued bringing extreme flooding as this low pressure system strengthens for portions of the Mississippi River and even all the way to the Midwest. And we're also going to be seeing very strong winds with the low level jet for portions of the Central Plains, including this strong severe weather with tornadoes. Also going to be seeing very large hail, of course, with this low level jet extreme wind. So we have a lot to talk about that is severe weather related and also Cristobal related in this video. So be sure to watch the whole video for all the information, especially where the strongest of the bands will be and also where we can be seeing the biggest tornado probability. But before we get into the video, please subscribe to show your awesome support. And without further ado, let's get into this video. So here we are looking at satellite imagery here, and here we have tropical depression Cristobal right here, bringing very dense cloud cover for portions of the Mississippi River and including portions of the South Central. So this is where the Mississippi River is right here. Of course, it is separating the states of portions of the Midwest right there. So this is where the Mississippi River is, and we're seeing extreme flooding for these areas right here. A ton of flooding expected at the 5 inches of rain for these areas. We really have flood warnings, flood advisories, and much more here. As you see, going to be seeing we're still seeing some rotation around this low pressure system right here. Low pressure system is most likely right here. And here it is, continue bringing very dense cloud cover, a lot of rotation. We're even seeing some dense cloud cover as far east as my area here for northern Georgia. But here we have tropical depression Cristobal. This is also why we have a slight risk for portions of the eastern side of the Mississippi River. It's exactly why we are mentioning Cristobal, because it is also part of the severe weather threat today, but most likely for the east, as we do have a slight risk and possibly for some tornadoes and very strong wind gusts. Now that we look at the satellite imagery, let's go and check out the satellite imagery for the northern or for the Central Plains to see exactly how long until these storms start to pop up and how long until they become severe. So here we are looking at the Central Plains here, and as you see, we are seeing some very dense cloud cover for portions of the Nebraska area. Here's tropical depression Cristobal right here. This is tropical depression Cristobal right here. That's a very dense cloud cover. This is not tropical depression Cristobal related. This is actually a different system. This is very dense cloud cover where we will be seeing those very strong bands developing here. So you're already seeing some very dense cloud cover for portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, and South Dakota. And Nebraska and Kansas is exactly where we have actually that enhanced risk right here. So that's where we're going to be seeing some very strong QLCs and supercells to move in the general areas right here for a portion of the Central Plains and even for a portion of the Ozark Mountains and the Mississippi River Basin. Now that we checked out the satellite imagery, we're going to be seeing these strong pop-up bands. You're going to be seeing a lot of dense cloud blowing up for these areas because we are going to be seeing some very strong bands to develop with a lot of energy, a lot of cape or high cape, and also going to be seeing a lot of humidity, and a wind shear is going to be perfect. A lot of wind shear with the low jet, so perfect scenario for tornadoes and a big severe weather outbreak today. So here we are looking at day one right here, and we have enhanced risk for portions of Nebraska and northern Kansas, even for portions. It's not too far from the Iowa and Missouri tip there, but here we have the slight risk, like I was mentioning when we looked at satellite imagery for tropical depression Cristobal. Here we have a slight risk for the Mississippi River Basin out here and even Ohio Valley and portions of the Midwest due to Cristobal bringing very strong supercells with its outer bands or with its bands here, and it's also not only bringing a severe weather threat for those areas, also going to be seeing some minor to moderate flooding for these general areas for as far south as Tennessee to portions of Illinois. That's where we have a slight risk, and also some flooding for portions of Cristobal. But here we have an enhanced risk for the general areas for Nebraska and Kansas right here. This is not Cristobal related. It's actually a different system here, a different low pressure system. That's including up to 360,000 people there, including Lincoln and Beat Rice, Nebraska. Those are really the biggest cities that are under this enhanced risk. Omaha is not too far from that enhanced risk there. And I did expect to see the enhanced risk today. I called it in yesterday's video. But as you see, we have a very widespread severe weather threat today, all the way from portions of the Midwest, Great Lakes, to the lower Mississippi River Basin to the Central Plains. We have a very widespread eastern United States threat here with up to 41, almost 42 million people under a marginal risk, including San Antonio, Detroit, Columbus, Memphis, and Milwaukee. And the slight risk is including up to 21 million people. So already, including level 1 and 2, we have up to 63 million people there under a marginal and slight risk combined. Chicago, Indianapolis, Kansas City, Omaha, and Louisville are all under this slight risk, also including Paducah, Springfield, Illinois, Washington, Illinois, areas such as Memphis as well. Memphis is on the border with a slight risk there, and Nashville is not too far from the slight risk either. And the enhanced risk, of course, that's going to be seeing the worst of the severe weather here. We now have a 10% chance, no hatch risk, so a general 10% chance for tornadoes right here for the enhanced risk. It's exactly why we have the enhanced risk for today. 10% chance for those areas, including beat rise. With only 100,000 people are under that 10% chance. So if you're under that 10% chance, you definitely want to be on the lookout there. And as you see, we have a very widespread 5% chance as well for those areas because of Cristobal for those areas, and a slight risk for the Midwest and Mississippi River Basin, also including the areas of the Central Plains, including Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. We have 20.5 million people under that's 5% chance, including Chicago, Indianapolis, Kansas City, Omaha, and Louisville. And the 2% chances, including 36 million people, including Detroit, Columbus, Memphis, Milwaukee, and Nashville. And of course, there we had a 10% chance. Wind threat's going to be, this is severe weather related wind. We will definitely be seeing up to maybe a 65 or a 60% chance if it was for non-severe weather related due to the low level jet, bringing up to 70 plus knots there for some of the areas in the Central Plains, which is exactly why we have those high wind warnings there. And then here we have, of course, right here, the 15% chance right here for portions of right here of the eastern United States, for portions of the Midwest, and even Ohio Valley. 15% chance for severe weather related winds up to 50 plus knots there. Chicago, Indianapolis, Kansas City there. As you see, Lincoln, Omaha, very big cities that can be seeing some extreme winds, and also going to be seeing that very widespread hail threat with a 30% chance hatch risk. That's including the 30% chance is including Lincoln and Beat Rise, but the hatch risk is including Lincoln, Manhattan, Junction City, and Beat Rise, with up to 600 plus thousand people under that 30% chance hatch risk. Now let's go and check out the NAN3KM model here on the tropical tidbits. Here we have, of course, tropical depression Cristobal here at 992 millibars. This thing has not weakened whatsoever based on millibar strength. This thing's bringing extreme flooding downpours for portions of Missouri as we speak, and we're even seeing these severe weather winds starting to develop for portions of South Dakota and Nebraska, like I highlighted there in the Doppler radar, or not the Doppler radar, the telemetry. We're going to be seeing the squall lines. As we now move into the next coming hours, we're going to start seeing this rotation. Like, you're going to be seeing these outer bands right here. You're going to be seeing these outer bands for portions of tropical depression Cristobal. Very heavy rain for portions of Louisville, portions near southern Indiana, which is exactly why we had that 5% chance. And watch this area. This is where we're going to be seeing these severe weather bands starting to kind of brew and kind of pop up out of nowhere and strengthen a lot for portions of Nebraska and Kansas. There you see that very strong low pressure system. Look at these very powerful bands right here, extremely powerful bands. Would not doubt that enhanced risk does move a bit more into Nebraska, and very strong pop-up bands and scattered discrete cells and even semi-discrete cells for portions of the Ohio Valley and even portions of the lower Midwest, and very powerful storms. And this low pressure system is at 989 millibars as it continues to move north. So very powerful, strong semi-discrete cells likely for portions of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and these very strong bands will possibly move a bit more now as far north as Marquette, areas into northern Wisconsin, northern Michigan, and even seeing these scattered bands starting to fall apart for portions of these Central Plains there that kind of fall apart. And won't really see that much of a threat for tomorrow necessarily there. Now let's go and check out the NAN3KM model for the Cape values here. So here we are looking at the Cape values here for portions of the Mid-Atlantic and of course the lower Mississippi River Basin. This here we're going to be seeing the really high Cape values. You're also going to be seeing the tip of Nebraska and Kansas. We're going to be seeing that enhanced risk. Not going to be seeing too much energy We are going to be seeing a lot of shear, though. Exactly why we are going to be seeing that tornado probability at the 10% chance, but it's not a hatch risk. We're not seeing a huge amount of energy. As you see, we're going to be seeing 3,100, 3,400 joules per kilogram proportions out here. As you see, we are possibly going to see up to a marginal severe weather threat, and not going to be seeing too high supercell composite parameter numbers. But yeah, we're going to be seeing a ton of energy for portions of the Ozark Mountain general region. Here we're going to be seeing very, very good numbers for portions of Arkansas, Missouri, Texas, Kansas. We're going to be seeing a lot more energy as well, moving in portions of Tennessee, Illinois, and Kentucky because of Cristobal bring very strong storms. As you see, we're going to be seeing the 3,600, maybe even close to 4,000 joules per kilogram for portions of these areas, and we're going to be seeing quite an amount of energy, but it kind of dies down as now get later into tomorrow morning. These numbers do die down, very limited energy. Overday heating kind of falls apart as it gets dark, of course, and then kind of does fall apart, and then kind of caps out, kind of falls apart. That's what we see kind of split up because it kind of caps out right here. You're going to be seeing possibly more than negative 200 cap there. Let's go ahead and check out now the supercell composite parameter. So here we are checking out the supercell composite parameter here. Let's go ahead and check out the numbers we're seeing right now for portions of the southern plains. We're going to be seeing a good number here, up to a 17 here, and maybe even a 19 for portions of the supercell composite parameter. And then those numbers have to go up quite a bit now for portions of Missouri and Arkansas, so 20 plus on for Missouri. And then those numbers really start to skyrocket for portions of the Mississippi River area near Illinois Missouri border. We're going to be seeing up to 30 on SCP there for portions of Illinois and Missouri. Let's go ahead and actually check that out. So here we are checking out the Ohio Valley here. As you see, we have a 30 on the SCP here, and I see a tornado probability and a 5.5 on the SCP there. So we are going to be seeing quite the good numbers there for the portions of Missouri there, even up to an 11 on portions of near Louisville, even portions of central Illinois of 20 plus on the SCP. So could very well see some really strong supercells and QLCS is likely for portions of the Mississippi River, Ohio Valley, and even, of course, the Central Plains where we have the enhanced risk. Very widespread severe weather threat because of Cristobal and also that low jet combined, going to bring in a very widespread severe weather threat today, and that's why you see up to, I believe, up to 80 plus million people under some type of threat for severe weather. As we mentioned, the bulk shear, as you see, we have a very strong wind shear flow. And for people who know severe weather, you want to have a lot of shear to bring in some storms. Here you're going to be seeing the low level jet right here, going to bring in a very strong flow wind shear. This is what we saw on the Easter outbreak with low level jet lag, except different region. But here we have this low level jet going to bring extremely strong shear for the exact areas where we're going to be seeing the severe weather. That's exactly why we have high wind warnings for portions of Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas, I even believe Oklahoma as well. We're going to be seeing up to 83 knots in the higher atmosphere, even higher than that can be seen up to maybe even 90 plus knots here. And as we continue to move on to today, this low jet kind of strengthens a lot here. We're going to be seeing a very large low jet flow wind shear. Going to be seeing really the high amount of wind shear right here. That's where we're going to be seeing that severe weather developing right there. Going to be seeing up to possibly 88 knots there, maybe even 90 knots there as well. Going to be seeing extremely high amount of wind shear. Look at this. As we now get later on, 103 knots by later today. 103 knots. That is a very good number for some strong severe weather here. You see that low jet right there rising up throughout the area, bringing a lot of wind shear for portions of even eastern Canada as well, but very strong amounts of shear for portions of Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas. Exactly where we're going to be seeing these really good amounts of Cape Valleys in general areas here. 103 knots there, and even higher, up to 105 knots for portions there of the Central Plains. And then that wind shear does, of course, follow as well. Cristobal, going to be seeing a good amount of energy for Cristobal, up to 70 knots in the higher atmosphere here. So we're going to be seeing a lot of shear in place for the severe weather to develop and continue to strengthen. Last thing we'll be looking at is actually the real-time winds here for the 10-meter wind. So this is real 10 meters off the ground. So this is kind of real-time winds. Here we have tropical depression Cristobal right here bringing strong wind, and then we have this low jet right here. Of course, that's also going to bring in quite the strong amount of winds. As you see, we're going to be seeing sort of Cristobal can bring up to 42 knots right now. We are seeing up to 42 knots of real-time winds, so around 50 miles per hour here for portions of the Arkansas, Missouri area, and the lower Mississippi River Basin. Here we are seeing extremely strong winds here for portions of New Mexico, Colorado. Going to be seeing at the 68 plus knots for portions of New Mexico, up to 60 plus knots for portions of Colorado. As we continue to move on, here we have Cristobal in the next 24 hours, bringing in very strong winds for portions of the Midwest, up to 54 plus knots. And look at this low jet, bringing it up to 60 to maybe even 64 knots for portions of the southern or for the central plains there. And then that kind of falls apart there. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Before we actually end the video, let's go and check out the National Weather Service really quickly. So here we are looking at the National Weather Service, briefly talking about here. Here we have those high wind warnings for portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas, and New Mexico. And this very light, kind of ugly brown color right there to say high wind warnings up to 60 plus miles per hour for those areas. And I see very widespread high wind warnings. We have high wind warnings for the South Central, for the Mississippi River and portions of the Midwest, for portions of the Central Plains as well. We have millions of people under some type of wind alert, and here we have these flash flood watches and flood watches, even flood warnings for portions of Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin, and even Nebraska because of Cristobal, even flash flood warnings for portions of Tennessee and northern Mississippi. So really strong storms here with also going to be seeing, basically today we're seeing extreme flash flooding, extreme winds for the lower Mississippi River Basin, also the Central Plains, extreme severe weather, also extreme heat in the South Central, really extreme severe weather in general, tornadoes, hail, flash flooding, all of that is in for today. Hope you guys did enjoy the video, and bye guys.